We are going to take a look at what I call the back door. Now, this is not the proper way to work out any of these problems. Simply, probably the best way to explain it is to say that we're checking our work. But on a multiple choice test, when you get stuck and you don't know what you've done wrong, a lot of these have what I call the back door. And what that is, it's where you take your answers A, B, C, and D, and we're going to plug them in for, in this case, it would be X. And we're going to look at these back doors today, specifically using the calculator that will be given to us on the test. And so if I was to see this problem right here on the test and I just simply uh, couldn't remember what to do, or I was working it out and I wasn't getting the right answer, I could use the back door to still solve this problem. The way that we would use the back door is we would take our answers and plug them in for X and plug that into the calculator. Now, because this is an equation, this equal sign right here means that the left-hand side must equal the right-hand side. So I can plug the answers A, B, C, and D in for X. And if the left-hand side is equal to 6, then that has to be my answer. Now, for everything that we do today, I will start off with A and move to B until we find our answer. And so sometimes we may get lucky, the answer may be A. Sometimes it may be D, and I have to do all 4 of these. And that's the unfortunate part to doing the back door. So this isn't necessarily the way I would work it, but just simply, if you get stuck, you can use this. So to begin with, I'm going to start with negative 22. So I'm going to go negative 3 parentheses, and I'm going to plug in a negative 22 in for X. So I put that in parentheses because it's being put in for X, plus 25 plus 5 parentheses, and I've got to put negative 22 in for X again, plus 25. So I've entered all this in, putting my answer in for X. Now, if this equals 6, then this is my answer, and it does. So the answer to this first question is A, negative 22, because when I put negative 22 in for X, it equaled 6. So we'll take a look at another one. So now we have this question. Now this question doesn't give us the left side is equal to 5 or 3. It's this left side, 4x plus 2, is equal to x minus 3. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to choose an answer and plug it in for x. And then I have to plug it in for x over here. And my two answers must equal each other. And so if they equal each other, then I know that that's my solution. So we're going to start off plugging a in, so negative 5 over 3. So we're going to go 4, and then parentheses, and putting in for x, I'm going to put this in as a fraction, and this is not in the proper mode, so I'm going to have to change this over to math print. So enter. Whenever you hit the fraction, it should pop up looking exactly what it does there. There we go. So we're going to put negative 5 over 3, arrow out of your fraction, and then put the parentheses. So we put negative 5 over 3 in for x, plus 2, and hit enter. So I get negative 14 over 3. Now, if I put negative 5 over 3 in for x here, and the right-hand side also equals negative 14 over 3, then I know that this is my answer. So I'm going to put a fraction, negative 5 over 3, arrow out, minus 3, hit enter, and once again, I've been lucky twice. Both of my answers have been A so far, and I haven't had to do this very many times because they equal each other. The left-hand side equals the right-hand side. That means that A has to be my answer. So let's take a look at another one. Hopefully A will not be my answer here. And so we're going to plug in, starting with A. Now this is going back to this left-hand side has to equal 0. And so we're going to start off with 5 over 13, arrow out, parentheses, and I'm going to put negative 65, close parentheses, plus 25. And if this equals 0, then that's my answer. And sure enough, my answer is A again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to use the same problem, but I'm going to delete this negative. I want to pretend like I put B in, just so we could see what a wrong answer looks like. And I hit enter and it gave me 50. Well, we wanted it to be 0, so B is obviously not the answer. And so you know for sure that whenever you're using this on a test, it's never going to be A. It's always going to be the last one that you choose. But the examples today, so far, they've all been A. So that was the last of just the plain equations where you plug in a number for X or whatever the letter is, and then see if the left side is equal to the right side, and if it is, then that's our solution. So this right here is a system of equations. So we have two equations here. Now, I'm not going to try A. A would be our answer if none of these work. So I'm going to start off with B. But the key with this one is that this is our X coordinate and this is our Y coordinate. So in the calculator, when I go to plug something in for X, I'm going to plug in -5. And when I plug something in for Y, I'm going to plug in -3. And X always comes first between these two because X is first in the alphabet. And because I've got two equations, it's not good enough for me to do just the first one. I have to do both of these. So we'll get started doing this. I'm going to clear this out. And it's 2, and then I've got to plug in something for X. So I'm going to plug in -5. And then minus Y, so minus, and then Y is a -3. Okay? So if this is equal to -1, then this could be my answer. It is not. So B is not an answer. So now we're going to take a look at C. So I'm going to just arrow up, highlight this and hit enter, and it copies it for me. And I'm going to come over. Now for C, my X is -2. So I'm going to change that to a -2. And my Y is still -3. So I'm just going to use that. And it does come out to be -1. Now, does that mean that C is my answer? Not yet. We have to check the second equation, and the second equation has to equal -5. So I'm going to put -2 in for X plus, if it hit plus -3. Now, I didn't put these in parentheses because there wasn't a number in front of X, and I'm going to, or Y, and I'm going to hit enter, and that was -5. So C is my answer here because when I plug these in for X and Y, it worked in both equations, making C my answer. It is possible for it to work in one and not the other, so you do have to be careful and make sure that you check both of them. Okay, taking a look at another system of equation. Now this one, my X and my Y are on opposite sides. So when I do this one, my Y is -10. So the right-hand side is going to have to equal -10 for this to work. So we'll only plug in the right-hand side because I can't put the whole thing in with the equal sign. I'm only going to put in the right-hand side. So I'm going to put in a -5 for X minus 5. Now remember, this has to equal -10 because I'm putting -10 in for Y on the left-hand side. And it does equal -10. Does that mean it's the answer? Not yet. We have to check this one. Once again, I've got -10 in for Y, and so I'm going to put the -5 here. So 2 parentheses, -5, and we get -10 once again. So it looks like A is my answer because it worked out for both of these. So taking a look at another one. Now this one, they kind of switch things up. They don't use X and Y. They use G and H. Well, these points always follow the alphabet. So G comes before H. So my first one is G and then H. Now the first equation, I can plug G and H both into the calculator because they're both on the left-hand side, and it has to equal -16. So let's clear this out, and we're going to put -4 in for G, and then minus 4 parentheses, and then 3 for H. So if this equals -16, then it's my answer. Or, I'm sorry, then that is the first half of my answer. Now I need to check the second equation to see if it truly is my answer. And so now this one, h is on the outside, so I'm going to put 3 here. And when I put negative 4 in for g, if this side equals 3, then both of these work and it is my answer. And so I'm going to put negative 4 in for g plus 7. And if it equals 3, and it does, then A is my answer. And so this works out because both of them work. But these are two different styles. This one, I could put all this side in to equal negative 16. But this one right here, I had to put negative 4 in for g. And then it had to equal h, which was 3. So make sure you pay attention to the different styles. Okay, so now we're switching to something, again, different. This is writing an equation. It says find an equation, but it's usually what we call writing an equation. Now, typically, we will either use slope-intercept form or point-slope form to write an equation. But when you're testing, checking it through the back door is absolutely the best way to go because there's no way to make an error on it if you type everything into the calculator right. Okay, now this is going to use a special key on the calculator. This is going to use the table feature. Now, anytime that we check an equation, there's two things we have to check. In this case, I've been given a point and a slope. So I have to check both of those. Well, the first thing I'm going to check is the slope. Well, my slope has to have a negative 2. Well, you can see this has a negative 2 slope and this has a negative 2 slope. But C has a positive 2 and D has a positive 2. So I'm going to eliminate those. Now I'm going to use my calculator to check A and B. So we go to the table feature and it says y equals, enter the function. And so I don't have to re-enter y equals, but I'm going to put in negative 2, your x is right across from the 4, plus 1. Okay, hit enter. Now the starting point asks us where do we want to start on our graph? Well, I want to check the point 4. So for my x, and this is asking where do I want x to start, I'm going to start with the x coordinate, which is 4. The step means what do we want to go by? It really doesn't matter in this case, so I'm going to leave it at 1. So we go through enter, enter, enter until we get to a table. Now, if when you look at the table, it says 4, negative 7, like this point right here, then A has to be my answer. Now, to show you what 1 would look like if it was not true, I'm going to go up here and change this to a minus 1. Enter. Still start at 4. And it says 4, negative 9. Well, I want to check the point 4, negative 7. Now, there's only one equation in the world that could have a slope of negative 2 and go through this point. So if we go back to the one that was plus, if we check the slope and then it goes through this point in the calculator, we know that this has to be our answer. So A would be our answer. So let's take a look at another one. Now this one doesn't give me a point and a slope, it gives me 2 points. But still, we can check these 2 points in the calculator. So we're going to go to table and we'll start with A. So we'll go y equals 3 over 4. Make sure you arrow out of the fraction, and then x minus, and then fraction 3 over 2. I will tell you that if you ever make a mistake on this, if you put a negative sign here, I want you to see the difference between what a negative sign looks like and a minus sign. A negative sign is not a minus sign in the calculator. And so it will give you a wrong answer. It's little bitty. We want a minus sign. It's a lot bigger. And so make sure that you type this in properly with a minus. So when you hit enter, now I have 2 points to check. I'm going to start off checking 3. So we want to start at 3. Hit enter till you see your point. And at 3, it is not 6. It's 3/4. So this is not my answer. So we're going to go to B. So go to table. Okay, now we've got 4 over 3. And I'll tell you what, I'm just going to clear it out. It's probably the best thing to do. 4 over 3 x, and then plus 2. Hit enter. Start at 3. Okay, at 3 it's 6, which is what we wanted. Now we have to check our second point. So I have to go up to -1. And at -1, it's not 3. So this is not my equation. Once again, it has to fit both of them. It can fit one and not the other. So in order to be my answer, it has to fit both of them. Some people will sometimes say, well, it means it has to be 3/4. Not necessarily. So let's keep checking all of them. So let's go to C, table. Now it's going to use 4/3 again, so I'm just going to arrow over and edit this and put -5, enter. I'm going to go ahead and start at -1 because I can check -1. At -1, it is not 3, so this is not my answer. Once again, a lot of people will say, oh, that means it has to be D. You never know if you type something wrong into the calculator, so don't assume. See it in the calculator. So we go, and I'm going to clear this out, and we're going to type in fraction 3/4, and then x plus, and 15/4, enter. I'm going to start at -1. So at -1, 3 checks out. Now we can check this point, and if this point checks out, which it does, there's only one equation in the world that could go through these 2 points. And so the fact that the calculator showed these 2 points, that means D has to be my answer. Remember, there are always 2 things that you have to check, either the 2 points or the point and the slope. Okay, this is our last one. And for this one, I suggest that you write down stuff as you're plugging it in because it's kind of tricky. Now, as we plug this in, we're going to plug in this -1 right here, and for y, so I'm going to put -1 is less than. And then we're going to put 0 in for x right here in the calculator. So I'm going to pull the calculator back up, and we're going to clear all this out. And I'm going to put 3 parentheses, I'm going to put a 0 in for x, plus 12. Hit enter, and you get 12. So, since I get 12, we ask ourselves, is -1 less than 12? Yes, it is. So this checks out. So now we're going to go back and we're going to do the same thing for the bottom one. Remember, 2 equations, or in this case, inequalities. I have to check it for both of them. So I'm going to put -1 is greater than, and you'll have to forgive me for the way this looks. I'm using my mouse. Or equal to, and then we're going to put 0 back in for this. So we're going to go 5 parentheses 0 in for x again, because that was my x coordinate, plus 7. And if this is greater than or equal to -1, I'm sorry, if -1 is greater than or equal to this, then this is my answer. Well, it's 7. So we read this as -1 greater than or equal to 7. No, 1 is not greater than 7. So A is not my answer. Okay, so I'm going to have to, and of course I chose the small one. Let's get a bigger one. There we go. So I'm going to do B now. And so I'm going to plug in 17 for the top one, and we'll go 17 is less than, and then we're going to put 2 in for x. So get the calculator pulled back up. And since I've already got this typed in, I'm going to go up to that, just hit enter, and go edit my answer. I'm going to put a 2 in for x. So 2, and it equals 18. So this is 18. Let's see if I can, there you go. So is 17 less than 18? Yes, it is. So this one checks out. So now we've got to put it in for this one. So I'm going to put 17 is greater than or equal to, and we're going to put 2 in for x again. So let's get the calculator back up, and once again, I'm going to go up to the second one that I've already got in here and just use it. I'm going to put 2 in, and so if 17 is greater than or equal to this one, then that's my answer. And so we got 17 in the calculator. So 17 is greater than or equal to 17, so this one checks out. And let me go ahead and bring this back up. It did equal 17. And so since both of these checked out, B would be my answer. So this is how you can use the calculator to do backdoors and still find solutions even when you're not sure how to work it out properly.